A vote in Mississippi, which would have effectively outlawed abortion by changing the definition of what constitutes a human being, a significant development. Under the proposed amendment, life would legally begin at the moment of conception, when an egg is fertilized. That would mean an embryo would have the same rights as a living person. Well, voters rejected the measure. That's perhaps surprising, given that Mississippi is a religious, conservative and broadly pro-life state. Christopher Whittington is editor of the Vicksburg Daily News. That's a newspaper in Mississippi. Just before we came on air, I asked him whether there had been an expectation that this amendment would pass.
It really was. Mississippi is a very pro-life state, and there were a lot of people who were expecting this to just pass overwhelmingly. There was a very, very prominent campaign to pass the bill from many different groups, especially Right to Life of Mississippi and other groups around the nation. But there was an equally greater campaign from some Right to Life groups who had concerns about the vagueness of the language in this proposition.
What was vague?
The proposition, to quote the proposition, this would amend the Mississippi State Constitution to define the word person or persons as they are used in the Constitution to reflect a human being beginning at the moment of fertilization, cloning, or the equivalent thereof. Now, a woman is not considered pregnant once the egg is fertilized, mind you. The egg has to attach to the uterine wall before the woman becomes pregnant. Defining that fertilized egg as a human being, now what happens there? Those are some of the education campaigns against this bill from some of the Right to Life agencies.
So what might have happened had it passed, actually?
The implications were, if this passed, that one, abortions would be made illegal. Anybody who had an abortion or a doctor who performed one would be considered a murderer. There were some implications that a pregnant woman would have limited choices for her health care. If a pregnant woman was diagnosed with cancer, that she would have limited choices in treating that cancer because of the effect the medications might have on the fetus. There were implications that the intrauterine device, which prevents the fertilized egg from attaching to the uterine wall, would be made illegal. Limited access to birth control. I mean, there were a number of things that came up that were possibilities.
Well, the voters rejected it. What does that tell you, really, that the debate about abortion when it's in public is a lot more heat, perhaps, than light, but when people get into the quiet of the polling booth, they think a little harder?
I think maybe you're right there. I think we're going to see this in an alternative version. Our Governor, Haley Barbour, was on national television earlier today talking about the possibility of this coming back.
And he voted for it, didn't he? He voted for this version.
He did. After coming on television on many different national shows, talking about the concerns he had, he wound up making a conscience-based vote. He voted his conscience that life begins at the moment of conception. And I personally am a pro-life guy. I believe that life is sacred. But I voted no on this bill because of the vagueness of the language and the implications that this could have across the board. Plus, I was also looking at the fiscal aspect of this bill. Not that it would cost the state any money by passing it, but in defending it to the courts and maybe even the United States Supreme Court, we would spend millions of dollars that we don't have at this point in time because of the economic crisis that the entire world is in at this point.
That's Christopher Whittington, editor of the Vicksburg Daily News in Mississippi.